Have you ever looked at someone who seems to have it all, the high-flying career, the luxurious lifestyle, and wondered what it would feel like to be in their shoes? We often equate wealth with success and happiness. But what if I told you that our entire understanding of money is built on a flawed foundation? What if the key to financial success has less to do with your intelligence, your income, or even your investment strategy, and more to do with your emotions, your ego, and your unique view of the world? Morgan Housel's groundbreaking book, The Psychology of Money, pulls back the curtain on our relationship with wealth, and what he reveals is both surprising and profoundly human. He argues that we often think about money in terms of math and spreadsheets, but the reality is, our financial decisions are driven by a cocktail of psychology, personal history, and the stories we tell ourselves. Let's start with a simple but powerful idea. No one is crazy. You might make a financial decision that I think is absurd, and I might do something with my money that you find baffling. Who's right? Housel's answer is that we all are, in a way. Our financial decisions are shaped by our personal experiences. If you grew up during a time of high inflation, you're going to view debt and spending differently than someone who came of age during a period of stable prices. If you witnessed your parents lose everything in a stock market crash, your appetite for risk will be vastly different from someone who saw their family's wealth grow through investments. We've all experienced a tiny fraction of what the world has to offer, yet we base our entire financial worldview on that sliver of experience. So, before we judge others, or even ourselves, for what seem like irrational choices, we need to remember that we're all just navigating the complex world of money with our own unique map. This brings us to one of the most humbling truths in the book: the oversized role of luck and risk. We love to lionize successful people, attributing their fortunes entirely to their brilliance and hard work. But the story of Bill Gates, for example, has a fascinating twist of luck. Yes, he was a genius, but he also happened to attend one of the only high schools in the world at the time that had a computer. This wasn't just a minor advantage. It was a 1 in a million stroke of luck. On the flip side of luck is risk. Every success story has a parallel story of someone equally talented who was wiped out by an unforeseen risk. The takeaway isn't that hard work doesn't matter, but that we should be humble in our successes and compassionate in our failures. The world is a complex place, and not every outcome is a direct result of our efforts. Now let's talk about a feeling that has likely haunted us all at some point: the feeling of not having enough. In a world of social media and constant comparison, it's easy to get caught in the trap of wanting more. A bigger house, a faster car, a more lavish vacation. But Housel shares a beautiful and poignant story to counter this endless pursuit. The writer Kurt Vonnegut was at a party hosted by a billionaire hedge fund manager. Vonnegut pointed out that their host had made more money in a single day than Vonnegut had made from his entire writing career. His friend, the novelist Joseph Heller, responded with something truly profound. "Yes, but I have something he will never have: enough." The concept of enough is one of the most powerful financial skills you can cultivate. It's about getting the goalposts to stop moving. Because if your expectations for what you need rise with your income, you'll never feel satisfied. True wealth isn't about having the most. It's about having the freedom and the options that come from knowing you have enough. This leads to a crucial distinction that Housel makes: the difference between getting wealthy and staying wealthy. Getting wealthy often involves taking risks, being optimistic, and putting yourself out there. But staying wealthy is a different game altogether. It requires a completely different mindset, one of humility and paranoia. It's about recognizing that the same forces of luck and risk that can create fortunes can also destroy them overnight. To illustrate this, Housel tells the contrasting stories of two men, Ronald Read and Richard Fosconi. Ronald Read was a janitor and a gas station attendant his entire life. He lived a simple, frugal life and quietly invested his modest savings in blue-chip stocks. When he died at the age of 92, he left behind an $8 million fortune, most of which he donated to his local library and hospital. Richard Fosconi, on the other hand, was a Harvard-educated Merrill Lynch executive. He was brilliant and successful, so much so that he retired in his 40s to a lavish home with an indoor swimming pool. But in the 2008 financial crisis, his highly leveraged bets went sour and he went bankrupt. The janitor, with no formal financial training, ended up a philanthropist, while the financial wizard lost everything. Their stories perfectly capture Housel's point. Financial success isn't always about what you know. It's about how you behave. Ronald Reed's patience and frugality allowed him to harness the power of compounding over decades. Richard Fosconi's greed and overconfidence led to his ruin. Staying wealthy is less about making big returns and more about consistently avoiding big mistakes. It's about survival. So, how do we build this kind of financial resilience? Housel argues for the power of saving. Not saving for a specific goal like a new car or a down payment on a house, but saving for the sake of saving. Saving gives you options. It gives you a buffer against life's inevitable surprises. It gives you the freedom to change careers, to wait for the right opportunities, and to weather financial storms without being forced to sell your investments at the worst possible time. Wealth, Housel says, is what you don't see. It's the cars not bought, the diamonds not worn. It's the money in the bank that gives you control over your time. And ultimately, that's the greatest dividend that money can pay. Control over your time. The ability to wake up in the morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. That is the highest form of wealth. It's not about a number in your bank account. It's about having the freedom to live life on your own terms. As we wrap up our journey through the psychology of money, what's the one thing we should take away and apply to our own lives? It's the idea of aiming to be reasonable, not coldly rational. You don't need to have the most complex investment strategy or chase the highest possible returns. You need a financial plan that you can stick with, one that lets you sleep at night. A plan that accounts for the fact that you are an emotional human being, not a spreadsheet. So, the next time you find yourself wrestling with a financial decision, take a step back from the numbers. Think about your own experiences, your own goals, your own definition of enough. Are you playing a long game, or are you getting caught up in short-term noise? Are you building a financial life that gives you freedom and control, or one that's driven by ego and comparison? The answers to these questions have very little to do with math and everything to do with the fascinating and often irrational psychology of money. And understanding that might just be the most valuable investment you ever make.